to be able to afford to live in Los Angeles and get arts admin experience to work at an institution like this one. When our students become an intern at LA Music and Arts School, our relationship begins, but it never ends. A lot of our
SoCal Trump Report. My name is Randy Rosenbloom. I'll be joined momentarily by a good friend of mine, Tarek Fattal of the LA Daily News. He's in a good mood tonight because he likes to stay up late. And we're a little later after he watched Yorba Linda do a number on Orange, a very impressive performance by the Mustangs. A little later in the program, we're going to have the head football coach at Simi Valley, Jim Benkert. He's out to a 2-0 record, and they're very talented, those Highlanders. And also we'll have Jim Rose from Birmingham. I know they're 0-2 right now, the Patriots, but they always seem to start slow, and they've done that the last couple of years and went on to win the City Section Open Division Championships. Tarek, we have news, though. A lot of football games tonight got canceled, weather-related, too hot, and in some instances because of the fire in Castaic.
Yeah, we got some bad news today. I would say, gosh, maybe close to a dozen city section football games got canceled. Most of them in the North San Fernando Valley, Kennedy, Granada, Sun Valley Poly couldn't play their game because not only was the heat too much, but that Castaic fire, which I think burned close to about 10,000 acres, that wind came in and made the air quality really poor. Can't play football. So a lot of kids disappointed today.
I was worried about you because I thought maybe you don't have a job anymore. All your games are going.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know, then I ended up rolling into here, so I ended up being just fine.
Yeah, I'm going to keep you occupied. All right, the biggest game last week was a game in Vegas. Bishop Gorman hosting Mater Dei. Gorman had to lead the whole game. Mater Dei was down by a couple touchdowns in the second half, rallied to win the game 24-21. Their quarterback now, Elijah Brown at Mater Dei, is still unbeaten. He's 19-0. But again, that showed character. Mater Dei showed why they're so good to come from behind against a nationally ranked team.
I think we talked about this last week. Bosco going to Allen, we kind of figured would be lopsided. It was, and then we both agreed. We think the Mater Dei Bishop Gorman game is going to be closer, and it ended up being the case. And good for Mater Dei. You know, I think those programs, Randy, that are so good, it's nice to see them in a close game because that's kind of when you really sharpen your tools, when you're in competitive games. Now, the two coaches we're going to talk to tonight, they'll agree with that. So Mater Dei gets a little test on the road, finds out what they're about, and like you said, Elijah Brown, 19-0 as a starting quarterback. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. You know, another one is Corona Centennial. They had a difficult game last week on paper, going to Cathedral Catholic in San Diego, which is a state power every year. They went there and opened up a 42-0 lead, won 42-7. Those Huskies, much like their basketball program, Logan again has got it going. We'll talk about their game with Mater Dei a little later in the program. That's who they play this week. But going to Cathedral Catholic, that's normally not an easy assignment, and they blew them away.
Well, the thing with Corona Centennial, I'll never forget John Ellinghouse, I think last week's guest, or within the last couple of weeks we've had him on. And Sierra Canyon played Corona Centennial last year, and I'll never forget after the game, he looked at me and said, Tarek, that's the fastest offense I've ever seen play in high school football. The Huskies just keep coming at you. They just don't stop. And so they're very, very difficult to stop on defense, and that's why they can score so many points.
Chaminade, J. Sarah.
Oh, that was the game in the Valley last week.
You saw it, right?
Oh, man, there was two great games in the Valley last week, but let's talk about that one.
Yeah, 24-21 Chaminade.
Chaminade's down 21-0. We're thinking, another Trinity League team comes to town, takes care of business. Well, Chaminade puts in their sophomore quarterback at the end of the second quarter named Seth Shigg. And Seth Shigg just kind of Michael Vick, runs around, makes plays, hurdling defenders, throwing the ball down the field. And so Chaminade ends up scoring 24 unanswered points, kicks a field goal in the final seconds to beat J. Sarah 24-21. Other tidbit on that note is that Javance Johnson, the quarterback that got hurt in that game, he is not going to play this week. Seth Shigg is going to play Birmingham, going to be the starting quarterback. Maybe we'll talk to Jim Rose about that a little bit.
You know, Oaks Christian, you were down on them a little bit the week before. They bounce back and do a number on Sierra Canyon. Sierra Canyon 0-2 to begin the year, but for Oaks, that's a big win.
Yeah, that was a marquee win. The one thing I've been honest, I've been very critical of Oaks Christian the last couple of years, because when they have marquee games, when they play big programs in the area, they seem to fall flat. Big loss to St. Bonaventure. Big loss to Sierra Canyon. Big loss to Alamany. I mean, the games just keep getting played, and they don't show up. Well, last week, they play Sierra Canyon, and boy, did they show up. They win 38-21. Devin Tate throwing touchdowns. Johnny Thompson running for touchdowns. They were unbelievable. Chase Farrell on the wing. Justice Williams on the other wing. One-on-one matchups. It was unbelievable. And Oaks Christian rises all the way up to number 2 in our Daily News ranking. Chaminade, the number 1 team. And I think one thing about Oaks Christian we got to talk about is that they'll be in the Honor Bowl this week. So they have to go to San Diego without Devin Tate. Devin Tate, the quarterback, got hurt with his shoulder. He had to get x-rays. They thought he broke it, his collarbone, the whole thing. But come to find out, he's just fine. So they're going to rest him, and Nate Bennett is going to start at quarterback for Oaks Christian this week.
You know, last week we had the Alamany coach on, Casey Clausen. He had gotten beaten badly the week before by a great team, Lone Peak out of Utah. And they had to play Lincoln of San Diego. And we're thinking they have no chance. They got no chance. Lincoln, San Diego, terrific program, much like Cathedral Catholic. And Alamany comes from behind, 14-7, they end up winning the game. That had to be surprising to you.
Well, Lincoln has a running back named Roderick Robinson.
Right.
And he's a big time, like one of the best in California. So the whole question was, hey, can Alamany, after giving up 49 points to Lone Peak of Utah, can they stop this Lincoln team? And they did, holding Lincoln to only 7 points. I believe it was 7-6 at halftime. They were trailing and ended up winning, like you said, 14-7. So basically the kind of take a step back macro picture on that is Alamany gets thumped in week 0 and finds a way to kind of just get better in 1 week. And that is a credit to Casey Clausen, not letting the guys kind of just slum around and quit. So good for him. Good victory for Alamany there. And they got 2 weeks off, then they play Mission Viejo. That's going to be a tough one.
Speaking of Mission Viejo, they were impressive again. I got the score here. They beat Servite. Now, Servite's not what they were last year, but Mission Viejo, 2-0. They seem to be a power. Now, they get Long Beach Poly tomorrow. That's going to be a great game. But Mission Viejo is rolling.
Yeah, Mission Viejo, number 14, ranked in the state. We talk about Mater Dei,
sure.
Bosco, Centennial. Bam. Mission Viejo is that number 4 team. So that is a team to beat. Division I bound program. But, hey, Long Beach Poly, history, all the FL guys, yada, 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 they're chipping away, too. They've got some quality wins in their schedule this week, and that's going to be a great game.
Yeah, they beat Sarah last week. I got to say this. I watched a little bit of the Poly game. And their defense is for real. They've allowed 10 points over 2 games. Shut out Clovis, gave up 10 points to Sarah. They are terrific. They have like 35 tackles for loss, the defense, in 2 games. Jackrabbits can play defensively, so no one's going to take them down easily. And if they get by Mission Viejo, they may go undefeated in the regular season and get a high seed in the highest division in the southern section. All right, let's flip it a little bit before we get to the Jims, Jim Rose and Jim Benkert. Let's talk a little bit about the city last week. Good win for Granada Hills. They get by a solid Westchester team. And again, they got the Stanleys, who are so good in the backfield for the Highlanders.
Yeah, Dijon Stanley. Too bad we couldn't see him tonight play against Palisades, because I think that the Battle of the Charters, you know, that's always kind of the big game to keep an eye on in the city section. But look for Granada Hills to just kind of keep it moving. And I think come West Valley League, every team is going to key in on Dijon Stanley, and that's when we're going to see what Granada can do to kind of mix it up.
Another game I want to talk about before we get to the guests is Cleveland of Reseda, who was supposed to play again tonight as well, and their game got canceled. But they played Grant last week, and Grant can score. But Cleveland had a very fine performance again offensively, scored 4. Outscored the Lancers 40-27. So we think of the West Valley, and we'll talk to Jim Rose about that league, and he's always the favorite at Birmingham. We know there's some improved teams there. Granada Hills is one of them, but so is Cleveland.
I would say Cleveland. If Cleveland and Granada, give me Cleveland. Donovan Powell rushed for 355 yards against Grant, and Corey Hall's kind of a do-it-all player. And then they've got Emiliano Lopez at quarterback, who's a senior.
He started last year.
There you go. So, I mean, they've got some skill players, but this is where everything becomes the separator, and that's what are you doing in your non-league? And, again, we're going to talk to Jim Rose about that. Every year, Birmingham starts sometimes 0-5, 1-4, but they know that they're getting ready for what matters, and that's league play. So it'll be interesting to see. Birmingham could get off to this rough start because they're playing such good competition, and then league play comes, and they could handle business, so we'll see.
Time to turn our attention to our first guest, Jim Benkert, head coach at Simi Valley. You know, he's probably upset with me. First of all, we have a Yorba Linda game on, and we show him the feed. He's got to play Yorba Linda in a couple weeks, and Yorba Linda looks great, okay? And he likes to go to bed early. And because we're on later tonight after the game, we're keeping the coach up. So question one to Jim Benkert, are you upset with me?
Randy, I'm never upset with you. I appreciate you having me, and Tarek, it's great to see you again. And yes, I actually got a chance to take a look at Yorba Linda for the first time, and they look like a fantastic power running football team that is going to give us some problems.
You got the big showdown tomorrow in your valley, in the Simi Valley, crosstown rival Royal, who has a win over Birmingham, and our other guest, Jim Rose's football team. What kind of game, what kind of atmosphere will you have with the Simi Royal game?
Well, the atmosphere is going to be electric. You know, it's two high schools, two public high schools in the city of Simi Valley, and everything stops when those games go on. And this is going to be no different. We expect a sellout crowd. I told our players to expect the fans to be the stands to be completely filled before the game even starts. We'll come out for pregame, and the two sides are going to be going at it. So I think it'll be a great rivalry game, and something I know Royal and Simi look forward to every year.
Jim, we know that one of the big storylines for you personally in Simi Valley, the program, hey, back in the Marmani League, we talked about it at Media Day. You've been the coach at Westlake. You've been the coach at Oaks Christian, had great success, and now you're at Simi Valley. For the viewers that might not know, talk about just how odd it might be to be in the Marmani League, but wearing Simi Valley colors.
Well, I think you know, change is always good, and I embrace the opportunity to be at Simi Valley, and I think that our players have really responded to the things that we have asked them to do. The last 4 years, we've kind of outperformed the league we were in, and our area put us into the Marmonti, the very competitive Marmonti League, and I think we're ready to move that. I think we have the type of players on both sides of the ball that can be challenged and step up to the Marmani League, and it's something we've embraced in our program, and something that we've really have looked forward to. And actually, last year, going to the CIF playoffs in Division II, I think at that point, you know, it kind of shows that our program is here to stay, and our kids are really really high about to performing at a high level.
Win your first 10 games last year. How do you build a program so quickly? You've done it at Simi Valley. Your club at Westlake went to the state final against De La Salle, and that was a wonderful event for you to go to. You had great teams and great success at Oaks Christian. What's the secret to building a football program at the high school level and getting it to a very high level?
Well, I think everybody will say it's the culture. You know, you really have to change the culture. When I first came to Simi Valley, you know, they weren't prepared to play a 11-game season. They were just kind of done at 8, 9, 10 games, and the season kind of wore on them, and getting to the CIF playoffs was not a big goal for them. And I think we've kind of changed that, and we've kind of talked about getting to the title game. We've talked about winning the games that matter. A few years ago, we ended up getting to the title game. My second year there, we went to the CIF championship game against Crescenta Valley, and you know, that was a big change in the program. They hadn't gotten to the semifinals in 71 years, and for us to get to the title game, which had never happened at Simi Valley, was a great thing for our program, great thing for our school, great thing for our community. And I think you know, we just kind of built on that, and you know, really looked at embracing the change. And the kids, my first day there, we threw everything away. We took all the things off the walls and changed everything. And you know, our kids have responded, and I can't be more happy, or can't be happier for what we've accomplished at Simi Valley.
Jim, talk about Steele Pizzella. He's the quarterback for you. He had to step in last year as a freshman. when Travis Throckmorton got hurt, and now it's Steele Pizzelli. He's a sophomore. Talk about his play and maybe how much growing up he's had to do so quickly.
Well, he's a mature young man anyway. Probably one of our better leaders on our team. And he's a student of the game. He's a sponge for knowledge, and he wants to keep learning more and more and more. He's a challenge from a standpoint of, he wants to know every aspect of quarterback play, and he's a 4.0 student, and he's just that spark plug for our offense. We did have an issue with our starting quarterback last year. Travis Throckmorton went down in the Pacifica game, and Steele stepped right in and led us to the victory, and then started the next 4 weeks and really established himself as one of the best players out here in Ventura County, and we're so happy to have him.
Coach, to me, high school football is so confusing from a playoff perspective. Where do you want to play? Do you want to be at the highest division? I know you as a coach want to be there, but you don't know if your talent's good enough to go head-to-head with Bosco and Mater Dei. So if you take yourself outside of the box, outside of Simi Valley, and look at the team you have, in a perfect world, where do you want to play in the postseason?
Well, I think, that's a question that, there's a lot of things that we pose to our players. And one of the things that we talk about is the things that we have control over and the things we don't have control over. And, where we go and who we play, that's just not something we talk about. That's not something we have control over, just like the weather. I mean, it's been hot and very difficult to practice. And as I heard, there's some games were canceled today. But we really concentrate on the things that we have control over, the things that we need to do to be a better football team. And this game against Royal this week is going to be a big challenge for us. I think it's a step up. We've to Tarek's point, we've kind of had our way with our first two opponents and running clocked. And I just don't know how good this team really is. I mean, how are they going to be when we are challenged? How are we going to face adversity? How are we going to do the things that we need to do to become a better football team? And Royal may have that opportunity and show us that they're ready to play. And at that point, we're going to have to reach down and become a good football team. And we haven't been challenged in our first 2 weeks, and we're preparing for a 4-quarter battle against Royal.
Kind of changing the subject just real quick, Jim, because I want to ask you have been around this game a long time, and I've been at the Daily News 7 years, and every time I come out and watch, but when you coach a team and you're practicing, I'm actually always in awe how well you instruct. You are a great instructor when you're coaching, so I want to share that with you. However, I do want to ask, when it comes to that instruction, talk to me about instructing a high school football player in the late 80s compared to instructing a kid here in 2022. Is it kind of the same? Is it way different? What's that like?
Interesting question, because I think it's way different because the game is way different. I mean, the way we prepare is way different. For example, two-a-days, there's no such thing as two-a-days anymore. There's no such thing as tackling and being physical in practice anymore. I mean, it's a whole new football game, and the way you prepare, not only at the high school level, but even the college and pro level. It's a different game. Obviously, the concussion situation has come in, and everybody is changing the way they tackle. Everybody's concerned about every aspect of the game. So we as coaches have to go change with the times also. So, I like to refer to our program as a fast break. Randy, you mentioned, and Tarek mentioned the speed of Corona Centennial. Those are the things that we try to do in practice. I mean, we try to become a fast-paced, full court basketball team on the football field. And, that's kind of the way we practice and the way we try to play on Friday night. And back to the instruction, like I say to the kids, I'm behind the line. I'm outside the game. You're the ones that have to play, not me. So you need to know what you're doing. You need to know, the changes that have to play play by play, and you need to be able to make all those adjustments. Stop looking at me to help you to do that. Back in the old days, we used to get in a huddle and we used to, discuss things, and we play one, have one play every minute. Now we try to have 4 in a minute. So it's just a different, fast-paced, cerebral game, and I really enjoy that part of it.
After making the basketball analogy, I guess I got to call you the John Wooden of high school football coaches now. So we love what you've done over the years at the different schools. I've known you for a number of those years. We go back to the good old days, and it's good to see you. You look well. You're a fellow Matador. I like that, and continued success, and hopefully you can make a deep run in the playoffs this year.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate seeing you, Tarek. And Randy, as always, have a great, great day.
Thanks, Jim. All right, Jim Benkert, he's one of the better ones. I mean, he's, you look at the time. We got great coaches in Southern California, but he has to be in the conversation.
He definitely does. And like I mentioned and alluded to earlier, instruction. Every time I go out to a practice, he'll stop, and he makes sure that every detail is coached, like hand position, weight distribution, and that stuff. I mean, that stuff's, if you're a true student of the game, you want to play for Jim Benkert because he'll teach you that stuff. That's the stuff that I enjoy.
I think it's that time when we have game spotlight, right, Larry? I think we talked to the producer here. Again, we came on after the game. We're going till 10 o'clock tonight. And we entered this last week for the first time. We had a segment called Game Spotlight, and this is going to be fun. It's Bishop, Amat, and La Habra. Larry picked the game. He's our producer. He thought this was going to be a great game. Not so much, but I think the highlights are pretty good. So let's check out our Game Spotlight. Won the game 42-7. Over the years, La Habra's had great football teams, so that's a nice showing there for Bishop Amat. All right, let's talk some city football. San Pedro's been out to a great start. The last we checked, they were winning tonight against Venice. And there's another guy who's very prominent in the city section. That's Jim Rose, head coach, Birmingham. Jim and I go back a number of years. I remember when he was an assistant on Ed Crozen's staff when they're winning championships at Birmingham. Now he's winning the championships as the head coach. Jim, welcome to the program.
How you doing, guys? Great to see you.
To see you. All right, you're 0-2. You got them right where you want them, right? Every year you start out, lose a whole bunch of football games, then you win the city title. So is it your position that you're going to go 0-5 again like last year and then win it all?
I mean, the goal is not to go 0-5, but it does happen sometimes. The first game against Royal, we were up late in the game and lost it in the last 2 minutes. And, I thought we played much better last week against a better opponent, Notre Dame. And it was, at one point it was 28-20 in the third quarter. So I saw vast improvement out of a real young team, which I like a lot.
That's where I was going with this. I mean, in all candor, you had a great football team last year, but you lost a lot of people. Some 30, 35 kids graduated from that team. You got youth. I know you like your talent. Talk about this team and where you see them developing week to week? Because they're so young.
Well, for example, our two middle linebackers that have started the first two games, one's a sophomore and one's a freshman. Our free safety was a sophomore. Our quarterback's a sophomore. And so they're only going to get better. Now, the hard part with not winning early, they have to learn why we're doing this. And if they learn the system and buy into it, we'll be fine at the end.
Jim, yeah, I was just going to say, that's got to be, I mean, I'm asking you, but I find that to be one of your largest struggles is those senior heavy teams, juniors, they kind of know, all right, we're playing the big dogs in the area so we can prepare for the city. Do you find it hard to kind of tell those young guys, hey, there's a reason to this madness? And when it comes to playing some of those bigger programs nearby?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a fine line because, you know, any of us, if you lose confidence, then you're struggling. But if you keep motivated and, you know, there was still a lot of guys coming back. They were young and didn't get to play that much, but they're on the team. And so they went through the process and they've been there and been a part of a championship team. So we're hoping those guys take over and, you know, lead us through these non-league games and get ready for city ball.
You know, it's interesting. You've won the Open Division the last 2 times. What's been the secret of success at Birmingham? Obviously, you're a veteran coach. You know how to get it done. But why is Birmingham the power now in the LA City section along with San Pedro?
I just think we have the mentality that we know we're going down, play somebody in the Marine League late in the season, and, you know, we're not going to back down to you. And that's been notorious. You know, there was a playoff game last year where, you know, there was a lot of comments about how soft we are because we're from the Valley. Well, I mean, I don't think we are, and a lot of people don't think we are after that game either.
I think Birmingham's soft. I think maybe the district might be soft with not allowing those teams to play tonight because of the weather, but that's another story. Tarek, I know you have a question for Jim.
Jim, talk about some of your young guys, and maybe, I know that everyone talks about Peyton Waters, but maybe some other guys you want to talk about and kind of highlight while we've got you on the show. Guys worth mentioning.
Eddie Plaza, our sophomore middle linebacker, he's doing real well. Mac Hewitt, the freshman linebacker and running back. Kingston Tisdale, our quarterback, sophomore, real high on him. He grew about 3 or 4 inches, so if he keeps growing, he's got a great opportunity to be a D1 guy. You know, those guys are our best young players at the moment.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned a potential for D1 talent. We all think Peyton Waters down the road will do that. But last year, you graduated Arliss Boardingham, who's now at Florida, and I think he's running on 3rd team, may get up to 2nd team real quick. He wants to play as a freshman, and he has a chance. What did it mean to the Birmingham program to have a player like Arliss stick it out, stay at your school, fend off any other opportunities from all these private schools, and stay with your club?
You know, I think it says something about the program. I mean, the last 2 players of the year, Arliss Boardingham and Mason White, they were at the school all 4 years. So it's usually, I mean, nowadays everybody goes everywhere. We don't normally have a problem losing kids. It's just, you know, in 9th grade, they tend to go to private school. So once you have them, keep them.
Jim, last one for me. Just maybe talk about what other teams out in the city section you kind of have your eye on. You know, I know coaches like to keep it, you know, hey, let's worry about what we're doing. But if we're being honest, you always want to take a peek over the fence and see what someone else is doing. What are some of the teams you think are maybe some of the top contenders for a city Open Division title this year?
You know, I think you got to go with Pedro and Banning up there. But I would say in our league, you guys mentioned Granada and Cleveland earlier. I mean, Granada's, I think they should scare anybody because if the kid gets a step on you, nobody's going to catch him. So you better contain him or it's going to be a long night. And I haven't seen Cleveland in a few years, and you know, hopefully we get to play them this year. But they've been doing pretty good lately.
There's going to be girls flag football coming up, and the first thing that popped into my mind was you coaching your daughter, who is a terrific softball player, and you are the softball coach at Birmingham. And I hear she could be a good quarterback. You know, we hear about LeBron James wanting to play, you know, with his son Bronny James and maybe the second son as well. Here you have a young lady on campus, your daughter. how fun would it be not only to coach her in softball, but in flag football?
I think it'd be pretty cool just to be part of history, to be the first year that's an official sport, just to be part of that. And she probably will play quarterback. She has a decent arm, and it'll be interesting. I got to look at the rules in flag. I'm not sure what they are, so I got to brush up on that pretty soon.
You and me both. I mean, how many teams can you coach over there? I mean, if you're going to coach the flag football team, the varsity football team, the softball team, can you juggle that many hats?
During COVID, we were doing football and softball at the same time in the spring, so why not? Let's try something else.
Jim Rose, we always love having you on the program. Birmingham's been a staple of excellence for a long time, and as long as you're there, your softball teams will be competitive, and your varsity football team will be a challenge for anyone in the LA City section, and continued success.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Jim Rose. Thanks for staying up late, too.
Jim Rose is so classic, man. Jim and I, we'll talk on the phone, man, and he's a straight shooter, and sometimes that's hard to come by nowadays, and Jim Rose, you can always call and get a straight answer. I really like that about Jim Rose.
Yeah, it was interesting. He was supposed to go out and scout tonight, so the fact that we were on later because of our football game airing earlier with Yorba Linda winning over Orange was actually a good thing because he was going to come back late from the game and it was going to make it easier for him to come on. But then with the game getting canceled, we kind of threw our schedules off. So he was able to hang with us, and I think it was really cool. But it just speaks to where he is. You'll see Jim Rose out at games. He likes to scout games, look at other teams, write the notes. He's old school that way, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and again, Jim Rose has been around the game for a long time, and he just, sometimes when you've been around something long enough, it doesn't take long to just know, good, bad, pretty, ugly, whatever the case may be. Jim Rose, he knows what he's looking at when he looks at a football field.
As we hone in, we got about 3.5 minutes left in the show. I do want to talk about the big game coming up tomorrow. And again, it's Modern Day in Corona Centennial. And I think it's amazing as we look at the slate of games. These are the three big games in the southern section. Modern Day taking on two nationally ranked teams back-to-back on the road. Now, you might say, hey, high school football doesn't matter, they're on the road. Well, you go to Vegas last week and we beat Gorman, and we talked about that game, and now you have to come back and go to Centennial in Corona, which is never easy. Modern Day beat them in the playoffs last year, 21-16, their most difficult game on their run to a state championship and their third national crown in 4 years. That is a phenomenal matchup.
It doesn't get any better. The only other game that would be better is maybe Modern Day Bosco. But that game right there, the reason why that game is just, I don't know if you want to call it dangerous or has so much intrigue, is because it's always Modern Day Bosco or Bosco Modern Day. And then the third team for years has always been Corona Centennial. And so maybe, just maybe, this is the year Corona Centennial knocks off Modern Day.
Well, Centennial's got two good quarterbacks, great running backs. I mean, they're loaded. Matt Logan, to me, is the best offensive coach in the southern section. We got Long Beach Poly. I love their defense. Mission Viejo can score. It's at Mission Viejo. That's another dandy.
Yeah, Long Beach Poly, Mission Viejo. I think there's going to be a lot of points in that one. We talked about Long Beach Poly's defense, but Mission Viejo, man, just loaded offensively. I actually think there'll be a lot of points in that game.
And we both think Bosco, and again, Amat's really good, but we both think Bosco's too strong, right?
I think Bosco's definitely the favorite there, though. Amat, man, I don't know. Something about Amat this year. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
You gotta know. You're
I don't know. I just think Amat might keep it closer than we all think.
Okay. Well, I saw Eric Seinheimer said it's going to be a running clock.
Did he really?
Yeah, I think he wrote that.
Oh, yeah, then what do I know? Eric's probably right.
He probably is.
Okay.
All right, where are you going to be tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I am going nowhere particularly special when it comes to two powerhouse teams. I'm gonna go check out Brady Smigel. He's the freshman quarterback at Newbury Park. They're taking on a very not very good Crespi program right now, so I expect him to throw a lot of touchdowns. But I just want to be able to see the young freshman with my own two eyes. That's where I'll be tomorrow night.
I interviewed Brady earlier in the week. Brady Smigel is a great kid. His dad's the head coach at Newbury Park. Mature beyond his years. He's 15. You think you're speaking to a 30-year-old. I mean, I could see why he's already gotten in the huddle at Newberry Park and become a leader. What a great kid.
8 touchdowns in 2 games, no interceptions. He's already like 6'3", 6'4". Sky's the limit for that kid.
Yeah, he's getting scholarships already. In fact, U of A has already offered. They offered him when he was in the 9th grade. Arizona gave him a scholarship offer. Of course, his dad played offensive line at Arizona. Well, that's going to do it, Tarek. It went fast. We went to 10 o'clock tonight. Less traffic on the way home. That's good for both of us. Next week, we'll be back at our normal 9 o'clock slot. I don't think there's going to be any games in front of us. We might have some games down the road, which could change some things. But next week, you're not going to be here, though. So Tarek's going to go. He's on vacation. And we're going to have someone else in that seat. We'll come back next week at 9 o'clock right here on LA 36. So please stay with us. We're going to have another jam-packed show on SoCal Prep Report. And for now, I'm Randy. For Tarek, good night, everybody.